On this season 3 premiere episode of Let's Talk About It, we're going to do a review of Jordan Peele's latest movie, Nope. Is there more than meets the eye with this summer blockbuster? We'll talk some of the themes that we noticed and let you know whether or not you should go to the movies to go see it. And in our relationship segment, we're going to talk about apologies. What do we owe the people that we're in a relationship with? And should we hold public figures to that same standard? You're here. You've joined us. Now let's talk about it. Well, hello there.
Yo.
It's been a long time.
That's how you're going to start? Pointing out how long it's been?
I thought you were going to go for it with the song lyric and you didn't help me out.
No. I'm not contributing to this.
We've missed you guys. This is Malcolm Morgan.
This is Micah Morgan.
And you're listening to Let's Talk About It.
Also listening to this award-winning what is this? Intro music.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could jam to this.
It.
I think we have the best music in the business, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Shout out to the producer. Don't know who it was, but thank you for that.
Yes. Appreciate your contributions.
Well, guys, it's been a long time, and we've missed you guys. Really have.
Yeah, we really shouldn't have left you.
We should, without some little nieces and nephews?
Or a dope beat to step to.
Step 2?
Step 2.
Step 2.
Pick it. Oh, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. It's a day that I wish I could have taken a nap, but I got a little energy drink today. Feeling good.
Wow, look at you caffeinated.
Yeah.
You know, saving the world.
How are you doing today, my love?
I am caffeinated. I chose to do an energy drink today. But, I'm vibing. I'm excited. This has been a long time coming.
It has been. Yeah. So let's talk about this latest Jordan Peele movie. I don't want to give too much away before we start talking about it, but we have some exciting things to talk about this movie. Let me tell you, it was an ordeal to even go see this movie.
Oh, we have bones to pick.
Yes, AMC, we're going to have a conversation about this. We went and bought tickets like super early. We were going to go see a Thursday night showing of the movie. And in the movie we're going to decided the day of, they wanted to do renovations or something.
We still don't, do we know?
Have no idea.
The movie theater just shut down.
You couldn't get tickets to any movie. So.
Also, how often have we ever seen this movie theater shut down?
Never. I mean, it's a pretty major movie theater.
It truly felt like we were trying to be thwarted.
Yes.
By the powers that be.
Yeah. But we made it.
We did.
We made it. Had to go to a much further theater away that wasn't as nice as the one we normally like.
That's all right.
But we did it because we wanted to see this movie. We've been waiting. I don't even know how long.
Our whole lives. As I have been saying, and you have been graciously reminding me that that's not true, but that's okay. That's how I felt.
I feel like that's an episode. Like, have we been waiting for anything our whole lives? Next. Well, let's talk about it.
Yes. So the ordeal to get to the movie was well worth it.
Yes.
Are we still burying the lead in terms of what movie this is?
No, we already said that it was Nope.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, we already said
my
at
bad.
the beginning. It's cool. It's cool. You're just not paying attention. It's fine.
Oh.
It's been a while. You got to get the podcasting muscles back.
I know. Yeah, the rhythm.
Yeah.
I'm off.
So Nope. I'm going to give you guys a brief synopsis. If you have not seen the movie and you care about spoilers, we are going to spoil the movie, guys.
Yeah. You might just want to pause this podcast and fast forward.
This is your spoiler alert. From this point on,
you have been alerted.
We're not saving you from anything.
No.
So this movie is centered around the Haywood family. According to the movie, and I believe this is fictional. I don't think this is based in reality.
We really didn't check. Yeah,
It'd
be really dope if it was.
It'd be. I have a lot more questions after that if this was based on a true story. The Haywood family, who owns a ranch and is known for bringing horses to Hollywood, essentially training them, being required for the safety. And so, if you saw a movie with a horse in it, Haywood family ranch were the ones that did it.
Well, the background was that the very first video clip that was ever recorded on film was of a gentleman with the last name Haywood. I don't know if he was also an Otis.
I think he had a different last name just because it was a long time ago. But
but a black man on a horse, that this was the very first clip that was recorded. So that was kind of the backdrop of the Haywood family that we've been, what did Emerald say? She had something real cute that she said. We've been putting the what did she say? Oh, that's going to make me mad. Yeah. Anyway, she had something real cute about how we've always been doing film.
Yeah. So family is kind of behind this company. I'm skipping a whole bunch of stuff just to get to the good stuff. They were struggling financially. The son Otis Jr. took over for his father, and I think Emerald is kind of a wild child out here just living her best life. But she comes to help occasionally, even though she comes really late to meetings she's supposed to be to.
Which would make the word help a very interesting way to describe what she was doing.
But OJ is a much more reserved personality, much more focused on the work.
The oldest sibling.
The oldest sibling. And Emerald is she brings the show. She brings the energy. Their father used to do this. And, he had his own personality. He brings his own personality to it. And I think Emerald brought that energy that her father did. So the father gets killed in we'll call freak accident before we explain what's happening.
We will call it that.
And all that's OJ is given a coin that they pull out of their father's, I guess, brain or neck or something, and that is what ultimately killed him. And they have it posted up in in the living room, I believe. But soon they start having these really strange things happening. OJ is having to sell some of the horses to make some money because they're not really making a whole lot of money from their horse training. And then one of the horses escapes, and all we hear is it mysteriously disappearing and screaming with no explanation. So at first glance, it appears that it's a UFO that is coming in and abducting horses and other people. Turns out it is not a UFO. It is an animal of some sort. Some sort of interdimensional being that comes to eat living things, it appears.
Yeah.
So the Haywoods decide we need to record this, get this on tape, so people will believe us.
Emerald decides.
Because
she's like, we about to make this money.
We about to make this money. We about to go viral now.
Yeah.
So they go to an electronics store, meet a man named Angel who helps them set up all of this video equipment. He thinks they're just setting up security equipment, and soon he realizes, there's something else going on here. Long story short, they're just not able to get the shot that they need. No. So Emerald remembers a director that they worked with very briefly earlier in the movie, who she believes can get the perfect shot. The perfect shot. So they call him in. Initially, he says no, and then eventually he does come, and they try to set up this elaborate ruse to get the perfect shot. I'm skipping over some stuff just to let you guys know. Just want to give you guys the basics. So they come up with this elaborate plan. OJ is able to lure the thing out into the open where they can shoot it, get the shot, and have documented evidence. Long story less long, calamity happens. And despite their best efforts, despite actually getting the shot, they lose the footage.
They do.
And so near the end of the movie, this being is chasing down Emerald, who's trying to escape, and she gets to this nearby amusement park and is able to get the perfect image to prove that this interdimensional being is what it is.
And has been doing what it's been doing.
It is a very rough synopsis of the movie, but we're going to talk some more about it here. So
yes, we are. So I would like to start talking about how this movie does such a great job of operating on multiple levels. Like, I think what I noticed immediately on Twitter, when it came to feedback about the movie and just people, external processing about the movie, there was a large cohort of folks that were just like, oh my goodness, that was amazing. Like, finally we had some Black people come out alive on a horror movie. Like, just, amazing cinematography, just really raving about the way that the movie operated on a cinematic level. And then you had the cohort of folks that we probably fall into this cohort, dissecting the themes and the metaphor that we at least think Jordan Peele is, weaving into this movie, because of course he's never going to tell us.
Nope.
But I think that's one of the things that just amazes me about this movie, is that it's really operating really well on both levels.
Yeah. In the press build-up to this movie, they were very tight-lipped about some of those themes. But Jordan did say that he wanted to create a spectacle of a movie, just a summer blockbuster after the 2 years we've been through with the pandemic that is still yet going on. Just allowing people a place to just forget and just enjoy the movie. Yeah. But we also know that Jordan doesn't just give us that. He gives us so much more. But I think the beautiful thing about this is that if you go to the movie and just watch it, it's still an enjoyable movie, even if you don't dig into the deeper symbolism of it all.
So good. Like, even the humor, there was this hilarious moment that I think just captured just quintessential blackness in horror, or at least the blackness that we've been hoping for in horror.
Yes.
Where OJ, the oldest brother, went into the stable to check on, the lights were coming on by themselves. And lo and behold, this alien-like figure not sneaks up on him, but like walks up on him, like out in the open. And what is the first thing he says? Nope, nope. So it was just this beautiful, like, that is what Black people have been saying as we've been watching horror movies from our living rooms and from the movie theaters. Nope has been our just unanimous response to, like, jump takes in horror movies, or just suspense moments. And Jordan gave us that. And, like, that's one of the prime examples of how Jordan was able to just give us this, like, yep, I'm going to give you this great experience, this great cultural experience on the surface. And then if you want to dig, you're going to find something there too.
Yeah. So I think it's important. There's something that we haven't talked about, that we didn't talk about in the synopsis, but I think this is pivotal to the rest of the discussion of the movie. Is that the movie opens up with this monkey.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And
all you really see in the beginning is just kind of bodies, lifeless bodies. You see, blinking lights in this television studio. So there's a character we didn't mention in our synopsis named Jupe, who was a young Asian boy at the time. He was a part of a television show. I forget what it was called, but it was a sitcom.
What was that called? Gordy's?
Yeah.
Gordy's Home.
Gordy's Home.
Yep.
Which featured a monkey, this Asian American boy with what we assume is his adopted family. Mm-hmm. And so, according to the story about the show, which is, as far as I know, fictional, they were doing this scene with his birthday, and they're giving the monkey gifts, and they open up this box and these balloons come out, and when the balloons pop, for whatever reason, it triggers the monkey, and he just kills.
He goes on a rampage.
The whole family except for the little Asian boy.
Oh, and the sister.
The sister. He does maim her.
Yes, profusely.
Profusely. And so Jupe ends up being the person that works at the nearby amusement park to the Haywood Ranch, I guess we should call it. Mm-hmm. And that's where OJ has been selling his horses. And so, and before Jupe was a part of the Gordy show, he was also played this kid cowboy, which was apparently this kind of iconic kid actor story of how he kind of got into the movie business. But I think it's important for this because the opening scenes, and they kind of interplayed these scenes with the monkey over and over again, were shot in such detail. I mean, you look at the Twitter comments, and even my first impression watching it is that you could hear and feel everything.
Yeah.
You could hear bones crunching. You could hear the blood dripping off his face. You could hear whoever is left alive clinging to life.
Oh my goodness.
You could just feel the tension in these moments.
I'm re-experiencing it as you're describing it. My heart rate's going up.
And so the way that it was shot, the way the sound is delivered is just unlike anything I've seen or heard or felt in a long time in a movie.
And this speaks to Jordan Peele's just talent. Like, I can just, in my sanctified imagination, imagine him telling folks like, okay, I want you to mic the mess out of this like section of this floor because we want to hear every blood drop. Like, I felt the suspense and the fear of that moment through everything. But I mean, really the visuals didn't super like play into it for me as much as the sound did. And I actually have been thinking about that shoe, and doing some reading on it. And I didn't even like put this together while I was watching the movie, at least not consciously, but I felt what the shoe was doing. I saw some folks talking about how the shoe, because there was a little like blue kid shoe that was literally just standing up on its own. And the camera would pan to that shoe over, like off and on whenever we would go back to this scene with Gordy the chimp. And folks were saying that this shoe was embodying the idea of waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I just like, I'm thinking back to watching that shoe, and I would literally, I was waiting for the shoe to drop. Like, how is this doggone shoe just standing up by itself? And it's stuff like that Jordan Peele does. Like, he's telling a whole story with the shoe. Like, this embodies what happens when you have this, you know, this chimp that has been provoked to this point. This embodies what it feels like to watch that chimp, like, just overreact and go on this rampage, and you're just waiting for the next gruesome thing to happen in the scene. And there was plenty of gruesome things that was happening in that scene.
Plenty. So let's talk about some of the themes that we've noticed and talked about from this movie. I think the first one we got to look at is tokenism. You know, you can look at it from the entertainment industry, or you can look at it at a more macro level.
Tell us about where the tokenism theme began.
So in the initial, one of the early scenes of the movie, OJ is at the movie set with one of the horses getting ready to shoot a scene, and he's trying to give them like the safety precautions, things you got to look out for. Here's what you need to be worried about. Here's what we're not going to do around the horse. And he's kind of, you know, OJ is much more understated. Doesn't really bring any kind of flair to it. And you just kind of hear people whispering, "Where's the old guy?"
Right. Is this the guy who's supposed to be doing?
Where's the old guy? And they're like,
disrespectful.
He's gone. They're all just kind of like dismissing him. And then Emerald shows up, however many.
Keke Palmer,
who, she needs to get her award for this.
Immediately.
Yes. She gets up there and does the song and dance, gives them the whole show, and so then everybody is paying attention and engaged. And so I want to go back to something I talked about earlier. OJ's father died. I'll give this away for you guys. The UFO/being dropped metal coins and other things, and one of them went through Otis Sr.'s body and killed him. And one of the objects that they pulled out that OJ kept is a token. So we were watching the movie. I was like, that token is important. I just can't figure out why. Why my brain didn't immediately go to tokenism. I don't know why. But I think the movie really speaks powerfully, you know, looking at the Haywood family, looking at Jupe as well, as, you know, looking at these tokens and how these people had to survive in this industry. And at this time, they had to put on a show. They had to be what these people wanted in order to make their way into this industry.
Yeah. And I think what I appreciate about Jordan is he really did give us that kind of, what would you call it? Kind of just a lead in with the movie beginning with, you know, OJ Sr. I'm sorry, not OJ, Otis Sr., the dad, dying, you know, from a token through the eye. Yeah. And I mean, just like you, I was sitting there like, okay, that's the strangest way to die.
Right.
But I really think that was Jordan. Like, I'm gonna just give you this little hint right here. And then you saw it just through the whole movie, just the ways that, like you said, these folks were people of color. Yeah. And then of course, Keke also embodied the queer LGBTQ community as well. So you've got these marginalized representatives of these communities showing up in these spaces that, I mean, I would argue that the contrast or kind of the setting was still this predominantly white setting, because it was still placed in Hollywood when it came to the Haywood Ranch, and then also Jupes, or what are we calling it?
I guess we'll call it like an amusement park.
Most of the audiences were white for both of those things, and so you see these marginalized persons trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to make it? How am I going to play the game enough to make sure I can keep food on my table?
Yeah,
that's.
And then have you talked about the monkey? I mean, monkeys are wild animals, and to try to turn them into entertainment figures. Basically, you're wanting them to put on a show for you every night, whether that monkey feels like it, whether that monkey would rather be doing something else. That's what that monkey is doing.
Yeah.
So that tokenism piece, I think it's something that we can apply not just to the entertainment industry, but overall. What do minorities and marginalized people have to do to survive? And then even you look at the example of both Jupe and the ranch. Was it worth it? The Haywood Ranch was underwater financially. They weren't able to. OJ was selling the horses to try to keep things afloat, and Jupe's Park was existing, but it wasn't exactly thriving. And he clearly had some residual damage from what happened during the Gordy's home incident.
Right.
But was it worth it? All of that? Did the success or whatever notoriety came with putting on the show cost you more than it gave you?
Yeah. And I think, so for me, what I've been trying to figure out is, how comfortable am I with Gordy? Because if this tokenism theme is what Jordan is, playing with in the movie, then Gordy is also serving as a symbol for that theme. And it just feels too close to the ways that Black folks throughout Western American history have been portrayed as brutish and often compared, called, apish and things like that. So I found myself, like, once I started trying on this tokenism theme and wrestling with it, I found myself really feeling kind of uncomfortable with that. So I'm kind of still processing that. And then B, I'm trying to think through whether the UFO / terrestrial animal, is that also a symbol for the kind of machine of dominant culture? My hunch is the answer is yes, because I think what Jordan ends up doing in the movie is showing that the dominant culture is fueled by this kind of exploitative consumerism. And so the UFO animal is embodying that, and therefore the victory of the Haywood family kind of, overcoming the animal is this example of there are ways that even folks who have either chosen to be tokenized or their choices have been whittled down to the point where they can't not choose being tokenized, that there's a way that we can overcome the beast, so to speak.
Yeah. I think looking at the intergalactic being / UFO.
We have 20 names for this
I
thing.
know. I don't even know. They didn't have a name for it.
We should name
it.
him. No, I don't know.
Does it identify as a gender, Micah?
Okay, I'm sorry. We should name it them. I feel like we shouldn't be personifying it.
We shouldn't,
because it was mad disrespectful.
It was mad disrespectful. I think along with that consumerism piece, it's this way that we consume content in this current digital age as well. Like the viral fight videos where people pull out their camera to look at it. And so one of the interesting things about this being is that it was territorial. So if you looked at it, if you stared at it, it usually led to you getting eaten or consumed by this thing. But OJ discovered, and it was part of his understanding of how horses operate, that if he didn't look at it, then it would eventually either back down or not fully consume him. And I think that's, a really powerful metaphor for how how we consume things that will eventually kill us or hurt our souls or cost us something on the inside.
Yeah.
But when we don't engage with it, it might save us for a little bit, but it's still coming for us. It's still around the corner. It's still causing damage around you, even if you are not participating.
Yeah, I think that's solid. And for me, what becomes so poetic about the Haywood family ultimately being the ones who triumphed over the beast is OJ's distinctive decision not to give the beast his gaze.
Yeah.
And Emerald's distinctive decision to commit to telling this story from her own gaze, right? So like her using whatever contraption that was in the amusement park to finally take a picture of this thing. Those two things become what overcomes this consumeristic exploitative beast. And so it's really, for me, it was an invitation to think about what are the ways that, you know, the Black community has and can continue to choose what we give our gaze to. Like, I know for me, I have completely stopped watching the police, you know, shooting, killing videos. Like, anytime they come up on Twitter, I'm grieving, I'm angry, I'm ticked off, I'm crying out to God, but I just refuse to watch.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason why I need to be traumatized twice. Yeah. Like, I already feel it in my bones that this beautiful Black person is gone as a result of the state brutalizing them, but I don't need to watch it. You know what I mean? But when I'm able to step into protest and tell the story of my community and to really embody that and be brave about that, the way that Emerald does in this movie, that is how I continue to overcome. That is how we continue to overcome. Yeah. So it's just a beautiful bit of poetry in that element of the movie. I
mean, I'm glad you brought up the filming of police brutality. I think especially for Black people and probably for any marginalized group, it's a way for us to control narratives, to create proof, be able to tell our story our own way. Because for so long it was, you look at the story of like Emmett Till.
Oh, gosh.
It was a white lady story that no one had any way to refute. And he had to suffer the consequences for that. And so, I mean, throughout history and even to the present day, we're constantly trying to document and tell our own story, because for a long time, Black people have been locked out of access to telling our story. Yep. We even go to the example of the race riots in Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A lot of people don't even know that story because it's not being told. So I think one of the powerful things about this movie is that these are Black people, and you can even widen out to marginalized groups if you include Angel, who's Latino, Emerald, who also identifies as LGBTQ. How can we take these opportunities to tell our story and not be beholden to somebody else to tell our history? Because when somebody else tells our history, they're not going to tell it the way that we can. I think one of the biggest things that I've learned as a person who really enjoys history is that history is told by the winners. And let me tell you right now, marginalized groups have not been the winners in a lot of these stories.
And I think that was the other kind of cool thing that I think, because we'll never find out, that I think Jordan was doing with the mysterious white director Antlers is, this was, if I'm not mistaken, the only kind of centralized white main character other than Jupe's wife. I know she was white.
She was minor. She was
a minor character. But, there is, like you said in the synopsis, this moment where M and OJ invite Antlers to come and try to, capture this impossible shot, the perfect shot of this beast. And, say what you will about his motives for agreeing to help them, but it's almost this kind of interplay on, okay, if we have marginalized groups trying to figure out how they tell their own story, are we going to choose to use the devices of the majority culture? Are we going to choose to partner with the majority culture to tell our stories? Or are we really going to use our creativity and use our resources to decide how we tell our story and what devices we use to tell our story. And so I thought that was another kind of cool playfulness with the plot that Jordan had in the movie, because Antlers ends up, by the power of his own ego, trying to go up and get, he got the shot, but that wasn't good enough.
He wanted an even better shot.
He wanted an even better shot. So, okay, you can get your shot, but you about to be a snack as well. So, there's that. And so M basically has this decision to make where she's on the, motorcycle, and she's deciding, okay, do I just flee or do I still try to get this shot?
Yeah.
And she still decides to get the shot.
Yeah. But the reason why is because even with all this devastation, even with all of this collateral damage that we can show, no one is going to believe anything we have to say if we don't have the shot.
Wow. Which immediately for me translates to real life, because man, the beast will just brutalize and exploit marginalized folks.
Yeah.
And you will see dominant culture, play coy. Like, oh my goodness, what happened to you?
I didn't know this was happening.
Why do you have, high blood pressure and chronic back pain? Things seem to be going so well. And it's like, you've been exploiting me for my whole life, dominant culture. Like, but they'll play like, no, we don't see what's going on. So M makes this decision, like, I am going to get this proof. If it is the last thing I do, I'm going to tell my story about how this beast has affected my home, my community. Yeah. And I'm just like, yes, girl. Yes. Be the hero.
Yeah. Look, in conclusion, Jordan Peele is just, to me, is one of the great storytellers of our time.
The GOAT.
You have to look at his, and I think I needed help to help understand some of the things that happened in this movie. I knew there was more than what meets the eye, but I just needed help. And so I had to do some reading and some research. And once certain themes and Easter eggs got opened up to me, I was like, there it is. It all came together. And so, it's just been impressive to see his rise from Key and Peele. Would have never thought that the creators of that show would be doing what he's doing now at this level.
What, though? I wouldn't sell Key and Peele short. Now, I done watched Key and Peele to death. If it was a VHS, it wouldn't play anymore. Okay, and the writing that they do, now that there's some corn involved.
Yes, always. As always. Yeah.
I think it's purposeful, but it's like the creativity even in that show, the things like the angles that they would find in the way that people interact. Like, and of course, it's not a novel idea that comedians often have a kind of genius to them. But I think even in Key and Peele, you could see this really unique way of seeing the world that we now get to appreciate in movies like Get Out and Us and Nope. And it's so cool just seeing Jordan's capacity for anticipating what meaning folks are going to take from his movie. And you can almost see him kind of playing with that, like giving a little bit of a hint or kind of satisfying that assumption that he knows people are going to make, and then you'll see him just take a left, but I'm going to take you over here with this theme. And it's super cool. Yeah.
So, in review, go see the movie, see it a couple times.
Yes.
And then do some research, do some reading, try to learn what you can about the movie. There's so much there. And even what we've talked about is not the extensive list of themes and things that you can pull away from this movie. But we would love to hear what you guys think about the movie. Use the hashtag #TalkAboutIt, and let us know what you thought about the movie. What did you hear? What did you see? Did you learn anything from what we talked about? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you.
Indeed. So now we pivot to our relationship segment.
I was about to do some music, but I don't have any relationship music.
Yeah, I don't know what we even play. Just like that. I want you to go and produce that this evening. Okay, thank you. So we are going to purposefully be vague.
Yes.
Because we don't want all of that noise. But basically, at the time that we have recorded this, it's, August of 2022. And you may have noticed that there's been an influx of public figures recently who have engaged in some behaviors that some folks, maybe even the Black community, the Black Christian community, the Black Christian community that appreciates gospel music, have been heartbroken by, disappointed by. Mm-hmm. And so what we want to do, instead of like naming those people, is just we want to take an opportunity to talk about what apologies are and like what even is the basis of apologies in the first place in relationships and all of that jazz. So just wanted to start off by letting you know we are going to be purposefully vague here.
Yes.
So so don't be trying to get us to say who we're talking about.
You're not going to put nobody on blast, y'all. Sorry.
We're not here for that.
Unless it's Tyler Perry, season 1. Check it out.
Oh, gosh. Well, I think we did it relatively gently.
I mean, we did use his name the whole time. Like, we didn't, like, try to cover it up. It's cool.
Well, there's that. It's already been done. It's out there. So Malcolm, one question that I've been thinking about as we've been preparing for this is, like, when you think about relationships, what would you say we owe each other in relationship? If anything, like, you can just be like, I don't owe nobody nothing, which I've heard before. But what do you think?
I think we owe each other to value our opinions and our perspectives. Respect. I mean, that seems like a real, like, cookie cutter answer, but I mean, yeah.
Well, then how would you define respect?
I think respect comes with understanding and accepting people's boundaries, for one. Their dignity as humans. Respecting their agency.
Yeah.
Just name a few things that I think we owe each other.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I really appreciated the respect, like the way that you define that, especially with agency and just being curious about and respecting people's boundaries. But I've also been like asking myself, do we owe each other in relationships loyalty? Like, I hear a lot of folks throwing that word around. I think on the onset, like if you are committed to someone, you know, you're in a friendship with someone, you're in a situationship with someone, you're in a relationship with somebody, you know, there's this idea that, or I think this mutual understanding that you are committed to one another until there's been a significant breach in the relationship. Right? Question mark. So those are some things that come to mind. But I also think another thing that we owe each other in relationship is caring about how you impact that person. Like, on a base level, if you're sharing a commitment with someone, that there should be this kind of constant curiosity about, like, how do the decisions that I make affect this person? And simply because I want the best for them, I want them to thrive. I want them to be respected. I want them to be valued. And so I'm going to commit to being curious about, do my actions lend to that? Or does it actually impede or prevent that from happening?
Yeah. How do I think, man, I think we can be aware of what their needs are, what their boundaries are, but do you actually adhere to that? Do you actually listen? Do you actually, like, accept it and work around it?
And do you actually do something to find out, like, if you cross their boundary? And
if are you just crossing the boundary so you don't have to deal with the fallout of it, or because you care about that person?
Yeah. Yep.
Because I think a lot of unhealthy relationships, and maybe relationships in general, is that you want to avoid the emotional fallout more than you want to not hurt a person.
But I also think that changes with maturity. Like, I'm thinking back to when I was just a lot less emotionally mature than I am now. That there were some relationships where that was kind of my default. Like, let me just figure out what I need to do so that do something so that there's an issue, right? Mm-hmm. But then there's also like there's sometimes where your relationship gets to that point because you've maybe had so many offenses in that relationship or so many conflicts in that relationship that the affection that you have for that person has kind of whittled down to where you are no longer motivated by like a care and a concern and a compassion for that person, but you're just like in maintenance mode. Like, let me just let me just do what I got to do so that we don't end up falling out again, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of interesting that you brought that up because I think there's some factors, including maturity and just like the health of the relationship itself, that can actually affect what motivates us to care about people's boundaries.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to, let's just say you've offended or hurt somebody, what do we owe people in those situations? What do we, people that specifically that we're in a relationship with, what is required of us or should be required of us when we do that?
Yeah. I think on a base level, what's first required is curiosity. Like, be curious about that person's experience of your behavior. Because one of the things that I've learned, just from living, but also from, I do serve as a therapist, so there's some research that confirms this. But we do not have a very accurate picture of ourselves. Like we tend to overestimate how positive we are. Yeah. And that's just a human experience, right? So I think the first thing we owe someone, if there's been an offense, if we've hurt someone, is to be curious about what is their telling of how we affected them. Yeah. I think that would be the first thing. But I also think like I think what we're essentially talking about here is like what makes a good apology? Like what's essential? Yeah. I know for me, one of the things that has always been difficult is if I'm in a conflict with someone and they kind of, you might have heard this before, like there's this kind of throwaway line. Well, we don't have to go through all that in terms of describing like what happened or even coming to a mutual agreement about what happened. I'll often hear like, we don't need to go into the details. And it's like, well, no, you don't have to like, I guess, litigate the details to death so that there's a perfect agreement about what happened. But if I say that you hit my car while I was parked and you say that I hit your car while you were parked, those are two completely different versions of the story. So I think another essential part of like repair after an offense is like, let's at least come to an agreement of some kind, acknowledgement of what happened. Yeah. Because I think at a certain point, there are relational dynamics where people are gaslighted because their partner or, whoever they're in a relationship, friend, situationship person just will not acknowledge that they had a negative impact on them. And that can make someone feel so disoriented because then it's like, okay, like I was sitting in my car when you hit me while I was parked. So, but did you hit me while I was like, you start questioning your own sense of reality. Yeah.
I think about the apologies that you do hear from people. Well, I'm sorry that you felt that way.
Woo, Lord.
Not, I'm sorry that I hurt you. Not, I'm sorry this offended you. Well, I'm sorry that you had feelings. Basically, I'm sorry that you had feelings.
I'm sorry that you reacted to the thing that I did. Like, really?
And that gets to the core of that, not acknowledging, not having an agreement on what the offense is.
The confession.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it's so interesting because I know, like, I'm just thinking about times where I've been emotionally unhealthy and I've just been unwilling to just fess up, right? Like to just say, I hurt this person. And what I'm aware of in hindsight is that there was this wrestling within myself about whether or not I was still a good person and worthy of love if I admitted to having hurt that person. Yeah. And sometimes I wonder if that's what a lot of people are kind of wrestling with too, that, maybe give incomplete apologies is, I wonder if they're wrestling with that too. Like, if it feels too heavy to just admit, like, yeah, I did hurt you. Like, does that feel like you're admitting to being a bad person too?
Well, I think that goes to people's idea of intent. Like, oh, I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't mean to hurt you because I didn't say it maliciously. So do I need to apologize if I wasn't being malicious with it? Yes. It's like, it's the same thing we're talking about, like, people say a racist comment. Oh, I don't know where that came from. it doesn't matter where it came from or why you said it. You said an offensive thing, and now it needs to be addressed. Yeah. Not, oh, I didn't mean to say it, so we're good.
Yo. And that, you know, what I will say is our society does not give us any breaks in terms of learning how to do that well.
Nope.
Because our culture continues to send us the message that you only do the things that you mean to do. Mm-hmm. Like, your will, your intent is God. Like, that's the core of individualism. Yeah. That's the core of, you know, the American dream, is you can will anything into existence. And so when it comes to these infractions or these offenses within relationships, I think that idea, that belief is still operating. And, you know, if I didn't mean to do it, then it didn't happen. And it's like, I hate to break it to you, but
it still happened, my brother.
We are humans who operate on autopilot most of the time, who are interacting with other humans who are operating on autopilot, and both of our autopilots are informed by a whole different set of beliefs and emotions and hydration levels and sleep level. Like, you are going to hurt I'm going to hurt somebody. We're all going to hurt somebody without meaning to. And so when you come to someone and you say, I'm acknowledging that I hurt you, you're just acknowledging that you're human and that person was hurt by something that you did, but that doesn't mean that you're like a terrible person.
So real quick before we end, we're talking a lot about people that you're in a relationship with and from that perspective. Yeah. But when we see public figures, whether it be a politician, celebrity, whatever, do we hold them to that same standard?
Yikes.
Of what we ask for them in an apology?
Okay. I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think the answer to that question is it depends, which is every answer to every question ever. But it depends on what kind of work that person is doing, I think. Like, I think if you're doing work that is, how would I categorize it? Work that is aimed toward bettering society in some kind of way. Like, if you're in a helping field, or if you're in a part of the entertainment industry that is attached to the Christian faith, which is basically rooted in the idea that we're here to make the world better. Like, if that's what you do for a living, I think the answer is yes. That, like, I think you do have a commitment to the public, and that you do, like, owe the public something. But if you're in one of those helping positions and basically your MO is, I'm just here to make money, and if y'all are upset about something I did, well, then that's on you. It kind of chafes against the core, you know, kind of fabric of what you claim to do as a professional.
Yeah, I think, first of all, you're right. I think you're right in the standard. There's still a high standard, particularly for people that are in helping fields or in service fields or something like that. But I think I have a different standard for people that I'm not in a relationship with because I don't know them.
True, yeah.
Like, you hurt a bunch of people, but you didn't hurt me specifically, probably. I mean, I'm sure there's something that we could dig up that hurt me personally. Right. But you don't necessarily owe me a specific apology or a targeted apology, and I'm not looking for that from a celebrity. I'm not, or a person, a public figure. Like, I want you to acknowledge that what you did was wrong, but I'm also not going to wait with bated breath and read the statement and dissect it,
looking for my name specifically,
and like, oh, did he hit all the points? Like, cool, you apologize. I might not listen to you no more. I might not rock with you anymore.
Right.
And keep it moving. That's my version of cancel culture. But at the same time, I don't I don't expect them to be my moral compass.
Yeah.
Now, I want them to live above reproach. That would be my hope and my prayer for them, that they could live a life that way. That's a good reflection for the community, for children, for whoever else looks up to them. But I've been around long enough to know that even the highest of public officials and the most famous of people are just humans.
True.
And when they mess up, the stakes may be higher for them, but at the end of the day, they're still fallible.
Yeah, and I don't even think though that my desire is for them to be above reproach. Mm-hmm. I think my desire is that if you are engaging in some kind of transaction with the public, that you at least care about how you impact me. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's really just it. Like, you can please make mistakes. Like, you have you have permission to do that because you are human. Mm-hmm. But if I hear in your apology this kind of, like what we were talking about earlier, this unwillingness to acknowledge the way that you've impacted the people who consume your art or your services, then I'm kind of like, well, dang, like, so I ain't mean nothing to you for real, though,
right?
So and maybe say what you will about whether that's way too much to ask, but I think that's just something that I crave from people that I give my money to, right? So just like you said, if I see that a public figure is not offering that kind of way of interacting with the public, then I can quietly decide not to engage with their product.
And the last thought I'll give before we wrap up for today, I think a lot of this goes to the feelings that you have about apologies and about public figures. I think go to how we've changed how we interact with certain celebrities and public figures. Whereas in the old days, it was kind of like a product, but really when you are a fan of somebody or you follow somebody, you're buying into them as a person. Like social media gives us a certain level of access. All of the 24-hour news cycle give us a certain level of access. So when we really become a fan of somebody, really enjoy somebody, we're really buying into them as a person, even more so than what they do.
That's really what it feels like. Yeah.
So when a person hurts you or offends you, you want them to show that they care about you just as much as you care about them.
Yeah. And maybe that's unfair. Like I can almost anticipate folks listening to this and being like, look, this is a capitalist society. Uh-huh. If you give me $20 for my album, you decided to give me $20 for my album. And that's fair. That's totally fair.
But then you'll be at the concert. I love y'all. Oh my gosh. Oh,
right.
I was in a dark place and y'all pulled me out with y'all love. I love y'all so much.
You just ain't love. This is a transaction. Call it that.
All right, Micah. So tell us what we talked about today. Let's review before we head out.
Oh, we talked about stuff and things, right? That's enough? No.
That's something.
So we talked about the critically acclaimed director Jordan Peele and his newest project, Nope. We dug into a quick synopsis, talked about the way that the movie operates on two different levels of meaning and entertainment, and really dug into what we think is the theme of tokenism in the movie. And then we shifted to talking about apologies in our relationship segment, and we explored what is it that we owe one another in relationship, if anything, and does that kind of translate to public figures? Do they owe us anything? And how do we kind of figure out what to do? What's the essential things to do when there is an offense or something between folks in a relationship, whether that's one-on-one or us and someone who's the public figure. So with that in mind, this is, of course, just the beginning of the conversation. We would absolutely love for you to continue that conversation. We want to hear what you thought, even what your disagreements are. Like, we want to hear it all. That's the whole point of this podcast.
Yes,
so, Malcolm, if someone did want to continue the conversation with us on Twitter, say, where would they find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Malcolm, MALCOLMDOT Media on Twitter and Instagram.
Nice. And you can find me only on Twitter at J. Marie Morgan.
Yes. And we've missed you guys. You guys, we promise you, when we take a break next time, it won't be as long and it will be for a set amount of time. But the pandemic took a lot out of us, guys. So we needed a break.
Yeah.
But we're back. We're better than ever. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Let's Talk About It. I'm Malcolm Morgan.
And I'm Micah Morgan.
And we'll see you all next time.